Hey guys, it's Ashley,
And I'm Charlie.
and you're listening. I'm sorry. You were just like cheesing, and I'm like, okay, I can't hold it.
You know why I started smiling was because I thought about during that one episode when we did the auto tune. I think about that so much when we were like, you were like, hey guys, I'm Ashley. And I said, and I'm Charlie.
We were talking slow. Hey guys, welcome back. It's Ashley,
I'm Charlie.
and you are listening to The Gift of Gab.
Hi, how's it
So
going?
yeah, hi guys. So I guess we'll jump right into it. What are we talking about today, Charlie?
Today we're kicking off our first episode of our Revolution series. So this will be a series of episodes that kind of are cohesive and kind of touch on similar topics, but different topics throughout time, all about different revolutions that have taken place. So today we're starting with one that's near and dear to my heart. I know Ashley, you too, is the
Yeah.
Stonewall Riots. The Stonewall kind of led to the pride that we know today and kind of the different parades that take place. So really excited to kind of talk about that today.
Yeah, I am too, because I know we did a Pride episode and we touched on Stonewall, but that really was the foundation of the riots and how this revolution started. So to be honest, like in that episode when we recorded it, I didn't know really anything about the Stonewall riots or how they began. So I was really like, it was really an eye opener to watch and look at different documentaries about how they started. I was really happy to look at that.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to jump into some history. I know, like you said, you've been watching a lot of things. I know I've been watching,
Hmm.
reading on it. So I don't know if you want to start with that and kind of take it from there.
Okay. Yeah. So the Stonewall was actually the Stonewall Inn, and it was a gay bar, and that was in Greenwich Village, in a neighborhood in Lower Manhattan. And the bar operated from 1967 to 1969. And it was considered a safe haven for um, gay males at first to have a place for themselves to be safe, to not be ridiculed, and things of that nature. Um, so yeah, it was really some place that they look forward to because in the 1950s and 60s, homosexuality was illegal, and those punishments could be very severe depending on you know what what police officer they ran into. It basically, it could be anywhere from fines to imprisonment. So that was supposed to be like a very safe haven for them. Even though that's what it was supposed to be, in my opinion, and from like the looks of everything, it always wasn't. Because it was actually owned by three mafia members, which I thought that was very interesting. But they owned that because they benefited by overcharging the patrons for liquor, for cigarettes, for things of that nature. And they could overcharge them because gays originally they didn't have anywhere to go. So that was the only place that they could go. So they paid the money because, why else? So the mob essentially, what they did was they decided to bribe the police. So what that entailed was, it was supposed to entail, when they bribed them, that they were supposed to be a safe haven and that there weren't supposed to be any raids. However, that didn't happen. So that they paid, like, I believe I looked it up, and it was like $1,200 a month they paid. And essentially what it was the cops just basically tipped them off if a raid was coming. So most of the times they got tipped off, and so they let people know, they cleared out the space and everything like that. But on June 28th, 1969, for whatever reason that was different, they didn't get a tip off, and the police began to raid. The patrons and the members of, or just the people in the Stonewall riots just began to grow tired of the discrimination, the abuse, the harassment, and they decided to fight back. Um, and there ended up being riots that went on for 3 days, and that was the beginning of the Stonewall riots. Were basically the beginning of the gay liberation movement. So I think that was pretty much like the gist of it. Like that's what sparked it. Um, and the riots sparked the movement of the Gay Liberation Front, and that was the first a group to publicly advocate for gay equal rights.
Mhm.
They continued to advocate, and within the next year, on June 28th, 1970, that was the actual first official gay pride parade.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think it's really important too, just for context, because I mean, if you study this or if you research this, you know, but I feel like maybe a lot of people wouldn't know, and I was surprised to actually know, kind of like you said, Ashley, that homosexuality was illegal in the 1950s. It wasn't actually, it was legalized in the first state in 1962. It was in Illinois. So just to kind of give you context, what was that, 58 years, I'm bad at math, 58 years ago. So we have people who are alive today who saw days where
Yeah.
homosexuality was illegal, not
Hmm.
just like frowned upon, like I feel like it still is by a lot of people, but
Right.
actually illegal. And I mean, I think that we celebrate pride and we celebrate, you know, obviously it's great that we're at a point where we can do that. But when we look back at, especially, I mean, pre Stonewall days, like you mentioned, cops were coming in and they were arresting people. Even not even just if you were gay or lesbian, but I mean, think about the trans people who were going to a safe place to just have a good time and to drink and to socialize and meet new people. And Sylvia Rivera's, one of Sylvia Rivera's essays, she kind of details that. And the cops would arrest you if you didn't have on 3 articles of clothing from your
Yeah.
quote unquote gender. And that's the gender that society is imposing on you, not the gender that you're actually identifying with. So to think of that, especially if you're in a place of privilege where you don't have to struggle with things like gender and things like sexuality, um, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about that you would get arrested for something that you're wearing,
Hmm.
or for just existing. And I think we see a lot of parallels to that. Not to get too far ahead of myself, but a lot of parallels to that about what's going on right now.
Yeah.
You get arrested, you get profiled, and it just shows that it's been happening for such a longer time than a lot of people I think are willing to accept or admit.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know, it's just crazy to think about that it wasn't that long ago. It was 51 years ago that
Yeah, it
Stonewall.
wasn't at all. And when you say it like that and you think about it, I'm like, oh wow. Like, my parents were kids when this was going on.
Right,
So
yeah.
it's like this was pretty new. It wasn't like, hundreds of years of this. And the fact that it was actually illegal, like you said, like I mean, frowned upon as being one thing, but actually illegal to get fines, to be imprisoned, like that is mind blowing to me.
Right, exactly. And then not even thinking about the harm that these people, especially trans women, were
Mhm.
caused when they were taken to prison or they were taken to jail. Um, whether it be because they were frequenting a bar like Stonewall Inn, or whether because they were sex workers and they were just trying to make money, because trans people have a more difficult time finding a job or keeping a job because of harassment, because of their safety and their security.
Mhm.
Um, it's crazy to think about, and it wasn't that long ago. Like you said, my parents were also kids at the time, and it's wild when you put it into context that it was like our grandparents were like our
Yeah.
age at this time, or roughly, um, so it's crazy, but I think it's interesting to look at, and I think it's important to look at, um, and it's important to look at the people who were involved in it too. So I always, obviously Marsha P. Johnson, uh, icon of that movement for a
Okay.
great reason. And then my near and dear to my heart, Sylvia Rivera, um, also very, very important. And not to discredit anyone else, but those are the two that I'm going to touch on. I don't know if you have anyone else that you want to
I
add
mean,
to the
too,
mix.
that, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and like I said, I don't want to discredit anyone who kind of has helped this movement and that kind of thing, but probably in terms of accessibility, probably the two that you're able to find the most work on and information and media on. So I know, Ashley, you had just watched the documentary, The Death and Life of Marsha P. Johnson. I don't know if you want
Yes.
to go into that at all.
Yes, I did because I was just telling Charlie that like we when we did our episode on Pride that he had mentioned the documentary and I never really like paid attention to it. I was like, oh, you know how you always say you're gonna watch something or I'm gonna read that and you never do.
Mhm.
Like that was one of those things. And I'm actually kind of like sorry that I didn't watch it sooner.
Mhm.
Um, it was just captivating. Like just watching, I feel like during the clips where even Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson spoke, you could feel their energy, you can feel their boldness, you can feel them just not giving a fuck and fighting for what they believed in and fighting, fighting for love. Like, to be loved and to be represented and not be mistreated. It was such a eye-opening experience to watch it. I recommend everybody to watch it, whether you're gay, lesbian, bi, trans, straight. I recommend it to everybody
Mhm.
because it was a beautiful documentary to me.
Yeah, and I think for me, I don't know if you felt the same way, and this kind of will lead me into my next point too, is the one of the most, I won't say the most, but one of the most chilling parts of that documentary is watching Sylvia Rivera get up on that stage and
Mhm.
give that speech where she is literally yelling. She, you can feel, like you said, feel that emotion coming out, where
Yeah,
she is just saying to a group of gay and lesbian people at the time, you have trans brothers and sisters who are in jail, and
yeah,
they're not writing to any of you. They're writing to people like Sylvia Rivera, people like Marsha P. Johnson, who started Star House, which I can go in a little bit.
yeah,
But writing to them because they are trying to make change for everyone, not just for the gay people, not just for the lesbians, but for for the for the trans people, for everyone else, for literally everyone. It's LGBTQ plus now. It's what we refer to it as, but for the
yeah.
whole community, because there were, like you said, the Gay Liberation Front, and there were other movements that happened during the Pride parade. They didn't want the trans people to be up front,
Yeah.
marching the parade, marching in the front of the parade.
And
And
it's crazy because go ahead, I'm sorry.
oh no, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say it's crazy because literally without trans people, you would not have a liberation to celebrate till this day. And there's
Exactly.
still discrimination going on to this day. There's still
Mm-hmm.
trans women and men that are beaten, that are murdered
Mm-hmm.
because of who they are and because they're not afraid to be who they are. And I just think that's a powerful thing because really it was the trans people that started this.
Mm-hmm.
So when I realized that, and I didn't know that until watching this documentary, like it was the trans people that started it, and to see uh fellow brothers and sisters, gay, straight, saying like, they were screaming like "fuck you" and
Yeah.
crazy types of things, and it's like you should be thankful to this woman. Like she
Mm-hmm.
put her life on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Marsha put her life on the line. Literally, she died for this,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, it was just something crazy to see that how people were so that didn't want that inclusivity for everybody and didn't want that, and that's crazy to me.
Right. And it's just, I don't know. I just looking at it and then looking at just how things are now, especially in like the LGBT community, like there is still some of that there. I mean, I think there's both sides. There's like the discrimination, and then there's like the tokenization or like the fetish, like the fetishizing of trans people, which trans people just want to be people, like, and even when we look at like a systemic level, the Trump administration had just pulled back, or just, I don't know what the word is, like reeled back on trans rights that were included in the Affordable Care Act by Obama. And just kind of blatantly saying that it doesn't matter if you discriminate against trans people anymore in a healthcare setting.
Mhm.
And especially when you consider the ways that, gender reassignment surgery and hormone replacement therapy are so integral to reducing gender dysphoria, which is a very painful experience in people who are transgender. Um, it's it's just so blatant, it's so explicit, and it's just hate. It's hate. Like you said, these people that, Sylvia Rivera, Marsha P. Johnson, and all the trans people back then were fighting for love. And it's just crazy when you consider that there were people fighting against them. So
Yeah,
what were they fighting for? You know what I'm saying? So what were those people fighting for? I don't know if
Exactly.
that makes sense. I kind of went off on a
No,
tangent, but I just, I don't know. It's just really crazy to think about. And I mean, I'll say it here, I'll probably say it again, but I challenge you, if you find that there are, you know, whether they're homophobic or especially transphobic people in your life, I challenge you to challenge them, to educate them, to point them to resources that may, you know, help educate them and reframe their thinking and think about things with a bit more of an open mind. Because I think, like we hit on, trans people are just people. They're people who again are just wanting to live their lives, and it's just crazy to think about. It's taken this long, and trans people still are not afforded the same rights that even just gay and lesbian people are afforded. So. Mhm.
exactly. I think it's important for people of within the community to speak up, like you said, for trans and speak up, and even straight allies. You know, I'm weird about the ally word, but straight allies. You know, even if you call yourself that, speak up. If I can speak to my mom or a family member or something like that and check it, baby, because I'm not letting it slide. I'm gonna let you know right then and there. So you can do that just with somebody, and I don't mean fight, you know, somebody or put so much energy to where it's draining you, nothing like that. But if you can shoot a link or something like that to somebody that's willing, because you are gonna have those people that just aren't willing and you can't see it through. It's crazy because I was just on Facebook today, and there was something about like trans men having babies, and then like a girl who claimed to be a lesbian, she was like, but you know, that's not a man though. So it's just like we just had that conversation and we were just looking at it, and I'm like, are we having this conversation and you claim to be uh a part of the community? Like what are we doing here?
Exactly. And I mean, I kind of, I saw, I just searched in my phone actually. I wanted to see if I still had it. Somebody on my friends list a couple months ago kind of made a similar kind of deal, kind of comment. And I don't know, I feel like people who are against or who are just transphobic, just put it blatantly, aren't, they aren't educated on the issue. I'm not going to call them stupid, but I'm just going to call them uneducated. Um, People that argue things like, there's only two genders. One, gender is a social construct, so that's a very false narrative. Throw it out. It's not. There's nothing behind that. The second thing is that there are only two sexes. Again, that's false. When you look at science, when you look at research, and you look at the ways that hormones are not an equation. When we were born and when we were in the womb, we are not given sex hormones in a very exact equation. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't. And there are people who are born with penises and vaginas, and there's just so much gray area that people don't consider, and it's just so frustrating when you see people who are transphobic and using these arguments, and it's like, I don't know how to get that through to you, that you just don't, you just don't get it, and you're
I
just.
think at that point sometimes some people just aren't open and they don't want to be, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm. I don't know, and I don't know. It's just frustrating to me. But I'm not going to steal your thunder, and you know, you have a quote later. I know you're going to read it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
but I just feel like it's applicable here. And I know I've talked about it before, but there is this article by Sylvia Rivera, again, who's been deeply involved in um, for not just trans rights, but for LGBTQ rights and the rights of other marginalized people. At the end of her essay called "Queens in Exile," she writes this last paragraph, and it hurts me, and I'll explain why in a second. She says, "Before I die, I will see our community given the respect we deserve," talking about the trans community. "I'll be damned if I'm going to my grave without having the respect this community deserves. I want to go wherever I go with that in my soul and peacefully say that I've finally overcome." And she died, I want to say it was 2002. I could be wrong on the year. But she died in the early 2000s. And here we are, 2020, still fighting for equality for this group of people,
Yeah.
for a group of people who was so integral in getting the rights for gay and lesbian and bisexual people.
Yeah.
Um, and when I think about how people like Marsha P. Johnson after Stonewall were treated, and Sylvia Rivera was treated. There's an interview, I was actually watching it on YouTube. I think it was 2 hours long. It was an interview of Sylvia Rivera. It was late 90s, early 2000s. She was living homeless on the street in New York City. How does that happen?
Yeah. How do you let that happen?
How does that, like, one, I mean, that's a whole other issue of homelessness and how I don't think
which
that
she
shouldn't
fought for as
exist.
well.
Right. But when you think of somebody who made history on not just like a small community level, on not a state level, on not a national, but a global level, helped spark history, and then is living homeless on the side of a road in New York City.
Thrown away.
How did I question how does that happen?
Mm.
Because it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And there are, and it's really shameful to me that there are people in this, outside of the community, I'm not even going to go there, but inside of the LGBTQ community who don't understand that, who don't see that, who don't care enough about the issues to get that. It's frustrating. Like Stonewall happened for a reason. Stonewall wasn't a we get in our underwear and we march down with these rainbow flags and we have glitter. Like it wasn't that. It wasn't fun. It was for a purpose. Like there was a purpose behind it. And it's frustrating that there are people who don't honor that and don't like even celebrate that. I don't know. I get it on an individual level. We want to celebrate, oh, I can do all these things. I can be proud of who I am, but like, what about the people who fought to get there,
Mm-hmm.
And sorry to take that and spin that so long, but it's so deeply important to me. I, I, I don't know. I have no other words, but it's just kind of frustrating to see those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree.
I feel like I got worked up there.
No, I'm here for it. I think that needs to come across, and it needs to come across. I feel like you said it beautifully. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Now, a positive we can talk about, and I know they touch on it in the documentary. I don't know how much other reading you've done or anything like that. But just a positive was like Star House. So
Yeah.
it was a house that Sylvia Rivera, Marsha Johnson really helped create for trans people. It stands for Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a house for trans people, especially trans people um, who were doing sex work at the time, and just a place where they can come home, have a safe home, they can get fed. And it was just a community of people who created a safe space for each other and created a space where, you could come there and feel secure, and you could feel like you had a place to go home to, and kind of collaborate and connect on your experiences as well. And I'm sure there are other spaces, and they're just not as known like as this one is now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there needs to be more resources for trans people, LGBTQ people, especially like the most marginalized group, like trans people of color. Like where how do we keep those individuals safe, and how do we ensure that they're getting the resources that they need to live a safe and healthy life?
Right.
So I don't know if you want to touch on that or if you had anything else to add to that, but I think it was just important for people to know that exists, and I'm sure there are different forms that exist now.
I was gonna say, I think there's different forms now. I don't really have like a list of them or anything like that.
Yeah.
But they definitely need to be more advocated for. They need to be more known.
Yeah.
Because I've heard about them. I forgot what the term that they use in general, but it's basically just creating, like you said, a safe space for those people and for people that need it. And I agree that we need those spaces. I mean, for one, I mean, this is kind of maybe a bit of a reach, but we shouldn't have to have safe spaces because we should be safe everywhere. But
Yeah. Mhm.
the fact that we have this, for people, for them to have access to. I don't know if we can find resources. I hope that maybe we can both look something up, so we can find resources for people that might need help. Maybe put a link or something down below.
I know of a couple in the Detroit area, and I'm sure that's maybe where most people are listening right now.
Yeah.
I'm just looking up. I want to kind of touch on a few specific things that each places do, because I don't know a ton of specifics for one of the places, but I know one is the Ruth Ellis Center here in.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I believe I want to make sure it's in Detroit. I believe it's in Detroit, or just outside of in Highland Park. Yeah, I figured it was.
Mm-hmm.
So, they do things like, I mean, from like STD testing and like sexual wellness, stuff like that. But they also do house, trans youth or LGBTQ youth, and make sure that they have a safe place to go. So if you or somebody who needs that kind of thing, please take advantage of that. That's what they're there for. They take donations for clothes. I don't know if they take donations for food, but I'm sure that they do. You can donate your money. You can donate your time. And it goes directly to people who need it, who are marginalized and don't have the access that maybe some other of us have. And I would like to do it more when these things are able to happen. But I know we held a benefit at when I used to throw shows at the original Matkin House. We had a benefit show for the Ruth Ellis Center and just donated some money there. And then there's also a place called Affirmations in Ferndale. Again in the Detroit area. And I'm just pulling up a list of resources here. I should have had these pulled up. But it looks like, again, kind of some health and wellness things here. It's not necessarily housing, but they have different youth programs. I'm sure they do counseling and that kind of thing. So again, just mostly in the Detroit area, but I'm sure there's other places. But if you need those services, or you feel like somebody who would take advantage of those, please share those around. And obviously, if you have any, let us know. And we can help kind of amplify that so people get the help that they need or help that they
Yeah,
want.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, that was a long tangent.
No, no, you're fine. I also wanted to mention, like, this is more of a recent, like, history fact. President Barack Obama, love him, in 2016 actually made the Stonewall in the area outside it like a national monument. And so I was actually thinking, and that was actually the first national monument celebrating gay history. I was actually thinking when the world opens back up, we should like visit there. I think that'd be really, really dope.
I did. I went when I went. So I think I said before. I think I said this maybe before the pandemic hit. Literally the day the day that the state of emergency went off in New York City, I was there and I stood outside the Stonewall Inn, and it was so chilling. It was so.
Okay, how was that?
It was like grounding in a way, and I actually saw the monument. It was actually very touching to me. It's like just a couple people. I can't remember if it was 2 or 4. I feel like I'm kind of making it up in my head now. But I remember like there was like a bench, and there was somebody sitting on the bench. There was someone like talking. It was like they were talking, and I think it was supposed to symbolize like the people, like after this is all happening, people kind of congregating and saying, okay, what's next? Like, how do we make this happen? Like, how do we kind of keep moving this? And there were just like little pride flags all around it, and it was just so. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. You kind of just. It's like one of those places, at least for me, and I know this wouldn't be for everyone, but it's like you kind of feel the history there. You can kind of feel it. It's like almost like it's like you're not that you're there in it because it's not it's not a protest or a riot at that point, but it's like you can kind of sense that energy has been there.
So you can feel that energy, like
Yeah, and it was just so touching to me. But I'd love to go with you because I didn't go in, like we didn't get to go in or anything. But I would love to go back and actually spend more time because it was really cold, so we didn't like spend a lot of time there.
right.
But that would be nice to go there and kind of really experience it and really kind of get a feel for what the people who spark change, what they saw, like what they experienced, like what what they're kind of at least get a taste of what maybe their lives were like on a day-to-day basis or something. And I feel like I was going to say something else and I can't remember. I don't know. I lost it.
Okay, but yeah, I think it's just I'm really glad that we decided to touch on this subject. I mean, like I said, I really hadn't known much about it, and me considering myself being a part of the community, I feel like it's important to know where things originate from. So
Yeah.
I would have never thought that would have been it started from like a bar that the mafia owned, So
Right.
I think that was something that was really important to know. So I'm actually glad that we decided to like start these series and things like that. Gives you more knowledge and just like history of like where we came from and how revolutions have progressed and things that we still need to work on and things like that.
Right. And I kind of want to just make a little disclaimer. Like, obviously, we are not, I wouldn't say we're experts of any kind or something. This is just us gathering the knowledge that we can in the time that we can. And hopefully sharing, I really believe in like access to information. And I believe in that knowledge should be transferred when it can be.
Mhm.
Maybe I know something that somebody else doesn't know, but that I kind of want to pass that on to anyone who's listening is, if you know something about this, maybe that we didn't touch on, or maybe just from a different perspective, I would love to hear it. And I think that's a part of not just growing, but like whether it's you're in the community or whether you are an ally, and especially with what's going on now, I think it's that's what we need to be doing, is just helping educate each other, helping us keep each other up to date on whether it was history or whether it's what's going on now. um, and I feel like that is true, like, camaraderie, and that's true, like, we're in this together. And I don't know, it's not, I just don't believe in withholding information, and I don't believe in even like shaming people for maybe not getting the whole story right, or the whole story. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know. I just love this kind of like dialogue, this discourse, and I kind of want people who are listening to feel hopefully inspired by it, and hopefully intrigued to maybe just give us feedback, or give us more information or education on it, because I would love to have
Right. Absolutely.
that. And I think that kind of leads me to one of my next things too, is just kind of parallels to what's going on now. And I think I kind of touched on it earlier, and we can kind of have dialogue on this too, is just things haven't changed. Things haven't changed
No,
really
not
at
really.
all. And while I'm sure a lot of gay and lesbian people were had it pretty rough in the 60s, in New York City and that kind of thing, I think it's always been heavier on people who are more marginalized than that. And while I think Stonewall was able to liberate gay and lesbian people, I think our gay, friends of color, our lesbian friends of color, our trans friends of color, are, you know what I'm saying? I feel like these intersectional people who experience things on a more intersectional basis are still struggling, and they still experience police brutality. They still experience higher rates of crime, and it's still things. I just don't think things have changed. And
No, because like I was gonna say, even like when you're watching the documentary and they're looking at the protests and like Sylvia Rivera is like screaming out into the crowd, they're mainly like white males and then like white females. Like I was like I kept rewinding it because I'm like, are there black people? Are there anything But it's the people of color that are fighting for this, and but they want the main faces or the main liberation for just the white group, and I feel like of course that's bullshit.
yeah,
Um, it's I don't know, it's just so strange to me how I mean it kind of just shows kind of not to get off too far, but
yeah,
like
go
how
ahead.
white people just kind of like take over something, and somebody starts it and they're like, that's great, but thank you for what you've done, but we're gonna keep moving forward with it, and like leaving the trans people behind. Basically that's what it is. there shouldn't be a reason why there shouldn't be a reason why I can get killed for the color of my skin, just like somebody can get killed because they're not going to, what am I trying to say, being society's forms. They're not going to societal forms and things like that. So I don't know. It's just
Yeah, and I think that's really the goal of this. Just to kind of give you a little pregame to it, that's like the goal of this series, is just kind of find parallels between different movements and show really that each struggle, even though it can be almost a little bit different of a topic, it's
mhm.
inherently the same. I think you said it really nicely, and I'm going to keep going back to it. They're fighting for love. You know what I'm saying? We're fighting for rights, we're fighting for equality and equity, but at the basis, we just want to be loved. Like, humans just want to be loved and allowed to live in a free way. And I mean, I feel like that might be oversimplifying, and I apologize if that's so, but I think at the core of it, that's all it really,
Totally
that's
is
all people
like
want. And
it's
and to deny people that is so strange. I don't know how people can't be on the side of love, on the side of compassion, on the side of, let's make sure people are cared for. Let's make sure people are getting what they need and have the resources that they need to live a life that isn't terrible. I
yeah. I recently had to ask somebody like, how does that affect you as a person?
mhm.
Like, how is it directly affecting you that somebody is who they are? and they're just doing what they're doing, and they're living their life, and all they're saying, they're like, you get the wording of people saying like, oh, well, I don't want you pushing this down my throat, or I don't want you shoving this in my face. I don't have to like it. Okay. But like, you guys are choosing like not even to respect it. And that's like, that's the problem. Like, be if somebody wants to, be with a man for the rest of their lives because that's who they love, how does that affect your day?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't get that. So why are you so angry
Mm-hmm.
because of that?
Right. And they can't even see outside their perspective, just kind of adding on to that, can't even see outside of their perspective that as somebody who has been now in a homosexual relationship,
Mhm.
what do you think every time I see like a straight couple do, like when they kiss, is that not shoving it down my throat?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's a two-way street. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to do PDA if you don't do PDA. Like I'm not going to, I don't expect to see like straight people fucking on TV if gay people aren't fucking on TV. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't, like, again, it just boils down to equality and equity and making sure that things should just be the same. Why is the standard not the same? Why?
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I don't know, I can go on for hours about that shit, and it won't matter to whatever, but like it just isn't equal. It isn't the same. Things aren't the same, and they haven't been the same for forever for different
Mhm.
people. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but hopefully this series, as we progress, um, if you're listening and if you have listened to the different episodes that have come out or will come out, you see those parallels, because I think even us talking about it, I think we'll kind of notice different things as we're talking about it when we move on to different topics. So I think it'll be very interesting to see, and I think it'll be very even eye-opening, at least from my perspective. um,
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for it. Like I said, this was an eye opener for me, like looking at what became what it is today,
mhm, mhm,
just some group of people just deciding to take a stand in a bar, like I said before, and it turning into a revolution. Like, that's amazing to me.
mhm,
Like, no, because that's how I felt so passionate watching these things and reading up on it, because it's like, that's how honestly all movements should be.
mhm,
If we aren't equally getting the same equal rights that we deserve,
mhm,
yes, we're going to push harder, because we have to fight. We shouldn't have to fight. So I definitely feel like, like you said, we're going to see these different parallels, and we're going to see, like, I felt like that was amazing, and it gave a big push, but we still have a long way to go.
mhm. Yep, and that's very true. But as
Mhm.
long as we keep fighting in the ways that we can, and then we keep awareness around these issues, and we don't let you know we don't let others kind of diminish that, I think we're fine, and I think we'll make the progress that we need. But I think
Yeah.
you need to radicalize yourself, you need to read, you need to watch, you need to inform yourself and others. um, it's not about, okay, I got mine, so we're good, like
Yeah.
the gays and the lesbians did in Stonewall. It's not about that, because the trans people still don't have theirs.
Mhm.
It's about, okay, I got mine, so who's next? How can I help the
Mhm.
next? Like, how can I help somebody else now? It's not. You don't stop there. Um,
Exactly.
so I don't know. I'm really excited to talk about future topics too, and
Yeah.
like I said, just draw parallels and just draw. How do we go from here? And I'm really really excited to see how those kind of play out.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm excited as well.
Yeah.
um I'm having a brain fart. Oh, what I was gonna say is, um having a brain fart. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know if I should start off with my quote. Well, if I should give a quote now, or
Yeah.
okay. So, me and Charlie are still social distancing. So, like, the cues on this is different from in person, and we're like, "Are
Mhm.
we done yet? Are we still talking?" But okay. So, I have a quote for you guys. And it's, history isn't something you look back at and say it was inevitable. It happens because people make decisions that are sometimes impulsive and of the moment, but the moments are cumulative realities. And that was by Marsha P. Johnson. The P stands for pay it no mind.
Oh my God, I love that. God, I'm gonna cry just thinking about her. I just have so much love. Her and Sylvia Rivera. I
Yeah, amazing energy. Like I said, I was talking to Charlie, like, we're gonna have to do buttons or like maybe totes or something. If you guys are interested, like, let us know. Also, speaking of that, like, how can people reach out to us? Because I feel like we kind of stopped giving that info.
yeah, let me look it up.
Okay, yeah, I was listening to one of our other podcasts. I'm like, we're going to mention this more because we really want you guys to interact with us and, just share this platform with us. Like Charlie said, if there's resources that we could look out on different topics, on this topic, things like that, I think it'll be really good for us.
Yeah. So the gift of gab mi at gmail.com. I think it's the gift of gab mi on Instagram. So at gift of gab mi. That's all we got right now. Oh, we have a Facebook too. So it should be the gift of gab. Maybe the gift of gab mi. I will link it. We'll link it. I'll just do that.
Okay.
We do have a little link tree. I made that and I love that. In our Instagram. So if you do find that, that should have a link to everything else.
Ooh, I like that.
I don't know if you saw that yet. I was kind of
No, I haven't.
I was kind of impressed. I'll say it. But yeah, so that'll have a link to everything, and it'll have if you want Spotify, if you want Apple, if you want Podbean, if you want YouTube, if you want Facebook, it's got all of it in there. So
yeah.
Find our Instagram, and that unlocks everything. What?
Yeah, I was gonna say we're pretty much on everything, I think, except for Twitter.
Yeah, I don't have the patience to keep up.
I'm not a Twitter person.
I mean, I can be, but I feel like I get so lost in everyone's opinions, and I feel like, Facebook, everyone has opinion, and usually it's like a shitty opinion, but Twitter, it's like everyone's just fighting to be slightly more quote unquote woke, and I just hate that competitive performance shit. I don't know, so don't love it. Maybe we'll get one now that you mentioned it.
No, I don't care. I mean, unless people say that we need a Twitter, then okay, we'll get one. But I still feel like I need just a basic tutorial on how to use it. I don't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Not missing much, I'll say it. But yeah, anything else? Anything else?
I think that's all that I have.
Yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed listening to this. I had fun. I love this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had a good time.
So again, this was the first episode of our Revolution series. So this was all about Stonewall and related topics. Obviously, we love Stonewall, we love Pride, and we love our queens, Marsha and Sylvia. I know I said this last time. I will find some resources from LGBTQ people and put them in a drive and share the link. So I'll have that going. And then we'll do videos. If you find any videos, Ashley, send them to me. We can do that too. And yeah, I don't know. I'm excited.
We will hold to that.
Yeah, and I'm excited. Hold me to it because I need some sort of accountability sometimes. But yeah, I'm excited for the next one, and we'll be doing this more regularly. And I know we say that kind of every time, but I promise you, I don't know. I'm excited. So
yeah, me too.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.